Aries Spears.
Oh, that dude?
Yeah. He said nothing
Is he a comedian?
Yeah.
Because he ain't never made me laugh, so I don't know if
50 Cent has built an entire second career on one simple rule. If he thinks someone crossed a line in hip-hop culture, he does not whisper about it. He checks them in public. And this time, the name that suddenly landed in his crosshairs was Aries Spears. What made this moment different was not just the joke itself, but who the joke touched.
You know what he said?
What'd he say?
He said it was nothing about you impresses him. From movies to rapping, nothing at all impresses him. And I'm like, wow, like what?
Suckers usually don't like me. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that you know, they usually don't like me when they coming from that angle. That's cool though. You know, everybody got their opinion and they all stink. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's cool. You know, he entitled to his opinion. It's the feeling is mutual. You know, I don't think he on anybody's list of top 10 comedians. You know what I mean? In the black community for sure. I don't even know if he's on the register with us.
Because in hip-hop, there are a lot of artists you can criticize, and a lot of legends you can debate, but there are a few names you are not supposed to play with casually. Ice Cube is one of them. This whole situation started quietly. There was no diss track and no viral rollout, just a short clip of Aries Spears doing what he has always done. Comedy built around commentary, impressions, and sharp opinions about culture. But in this moment, his words were not aimed at trends or social media behavior. They were aimed directly at Ice Cube's credibility, relevance, and the way people still treat him as an untouchable icon. To casual viewers, it sounded like just another comedian pushing buttons. To people who actually understand how hip-hop history works, it landed very differently. Ice Cube is not simply a rapper. He is one of the few figures who helped shape an entire political and cultural tone inside hip-hop. NWA did not only change the sound of the genre, they changed how artists spoke about power, police, identity, and anger.
Ice Cube was on when I'm just watching. Music,
and
all of it.
Movies, all of it.
Yeah. I never really seen Ice Cube in films that weren't his. You know, like he kind of produced the vehicle that he was in. And it wasn't like he was just being an actor in someone else's film.
Cube became one of the rare artists who crossed from raw street politics into mainstream film, business, and global recognition without losing the weight of where he came from. So when Aries Spears spoke about Cube in a way that felt dismissive rather than analytical, it touched a nerve. That nerve belonged to 50 Cent. 50 did not respond with a long explanation. He did not break down history. He did not give context. He did what he always does. He reduced the entire situation to a single message. You do not play with Ice Cube. That sentence carried far more meaning than it looked like on the surface. 50 Cent does not defend people casually. He does not protect reputations unless something deeper is underneath. And in this case, the connection to Cube is not personal friendship, it is positioning.
Hey man, I gotta listen to this. Nah, this hot right here.
In hip-hop, status is built in layers. There were hitmakers, there were trendsetters, there were moguls, and then there were cultural anchors. Ice Cube is one of those anchors. When 50 stepped in, it was not really about Aries Spears. It was about boundaries and about reminding people that certain lines still exist.
I'm the poster child for the world's biggest hater. If you look up the word hate, it's my picture. When did we get to a point where unless your opinion, and last time I checked as human beings, we're all allowed to opinions. At what point does it get to where unless your opinion is favorable about a person or a thing and goes with the flow of everyone else, you're a hater? I don't understand that.
What made the moment more interesting is that 50 did not attack Aries' talent, his career, or his relevance. He did not try to embarrass him. He checked the idea itself, the idea that certain legacies are open for casual disrespect. Because 50 understands something most entertainers do not. Hip-hop is not only entertainment, it is hierarchy. And Aries Spears, whether he intended to or not, stepped into a hierarchy conversation without realizing who was listening. This moment exposed a much bigger tension. There's a growing gap between how comedians approach hip-hop culture and how hip-hop veterans protect it.
Somebody sent me a clip where Ice Cube responded. He was on a radio show and the dude played him the snippet. And the first thing Ice Cube says is, well, most suckers don't like me. Then he goes on to say, I never heard of this dude. Then he finishes by saying, well, he's just not funny. Well, you can't have it both ways. If you don't know who I am, how do you know if I'm funny or not? So you can't have it both ways.
Comedy thrives on removing sacred cows. Hip-hop, on the other hand, is built on honoring lineage. Those two worlds do not always mix cleanly. Aries Spears comes from a space where nothing is untouchable, but 50 Cent comes from a space where certain people represent survival stories, not just careers. Ice Cube represents an era when being outspoken could cost you your entire future. When Cube was at his most controversial, there was no streaming safety net, no brand rehabilitation cycle, and no online fandoms to rebuild narratives. If labels cut you off back then, you were finished. So when 50 says, you do not play with Ice Cube, he is not talking about feelings, he is talking about earned weight.
That is why the reaction online split immediately.
And for the record, I respect Ice Cube, the man. I respect Ice Cube in terms of what he's brought to the game. He's one of the pioneers. So hats off to him. Said, I wasn't a fan of his artistry. I never attacked him as a man. I never attacked him in terms of his character. I said I wasn't a fan of his artistry. Why am I not allowed to feel that way? Why is that? And then secondly, it's always funny. People call me a hater because they love to highlight when I say I don't like something, as though I don't have love for anything.
Some people defended Aries and argued that comedy should be free to say anything. Others sided with 50 and saw it as protecting culture from being flattened into content. That is the real tension. Modern media treats legacy as just another topic. Hip-hop treats legacy as ownership of pain, struggle, and risk.
The greatest lyricist. He was energy. He was passion. He made you feel him. If that said, tear the club up, you wanted to tear the club up. Dear mama, you wanted to hug your mama. When you think about lyricism, Nas, Jay-Z, Biggie, Jadakiss, my lyrics spitter.
50 Cent exists inside both worlds. He understands content and algorithms, but he also understands where cultural protection comes from. He knows how easily younger audiences can forget what it actually took for certain figures to exist at all. That is why his response was not loud, it was quiet. And quiet checks in hip-hop are often the most serious ones. There was no circus, just a signal. If 50 wanted to embarrass Aries, he could have. He has done it before, to people far more powerful. Instead, he chose a warning tone. And warnings are rarely meant only for the person being warned. They are meant for everyone watching. There's another layer most people missed. Over the past few years, 50 Cent has slowly repositioned himself as a kind of cultural referee. Not just a businessman and not just a producer, but someone who comments on how the culture moves, who crosses lines, and who gets protected. He does it with jokes and captions, but the role itself is real. And the reason he can play that role is because he survived his own era of being unprotected.
Cube is a motherfucking lyricist.
I can't stand Ice Cube.
That's crazy.
I'm not a fan of him lyrically or acting-wise.
Really?
He's the same in
How much time we got left here? Because should I just tell him to leave now?
Let me tell you, Chuck did a great joke. He goes, here's Ice Cube as a gynecologist. Hey, Miss Jenkins, I looked at your chart. Now get up on that thigh.
That's racist. I don't know how it's racist, but what you just did.
When 50 first entered the industry, he did not have legacy shields. He did not have institutional support. He was treated as disposable controversy. So when he looks at Ice Cube, someone who helped create space for outspoken artists before it was profitable to be outspoken, he sees something personal in that story.
That is also why this situation feels different from the hundreds of celebrity jokes that pass through social media every week. This was not really about whether Aries Spears is funny, it was about whether cultural commentary can exist without accountability to history. That question becomes more uncomfortable as entertainment becomes faster, shorter, and more reaction-driven. Another detail most people overlooked is that Ice Cube did not respond at all, and that silence mattered. Cube has never needed public defenders, but when someone like 50 speaks for him, it signals that respect still exists in the rooms that matter. Not comment sections and not trending tabs. Real rooms. Industry rooms, executive rooms, production rooms, the places where decisions about projects, partnerships, and platforms are actually made. In hip-hop, public image and private reputation are two completely different currencies. Aries Spears may never feel the consequences of this moment publicly, but moments like this quietly shape how people are viewed when opportunities are discussed behind closed doors. That is how cultural power really moves, not through viral clips, but through trust and alignment. There's also something revealing about the exact phrase 50 used. He did not say, "Do not criticize Ice Cube." He did not say, "Do not debate Ice Cube." He said, "Do not play with Ice Cube." In hip-hop language, that distinction matters. Playing implies disrespect disguised as entertainment. Playing implies using someone's name without carrying the weight that comes with it. Playing implies turning history into punchlines without understanding who paid the price for that history.
That posture, not the joke itself, is what triggered the response. And this is where the story quietly flips. While everyone focused on Aries Spears and 50 Cent, the real subject underneath the moment was Ice Cube's position in today's industry. Cube is not chasing charts, he is not dominating social media, he is not fighting for relevance. He has become something far more powerful in the long term, a blueprint. Blueprints are respected only as long as the next generation still believes it needs them, and this moment raised a subtle question. Does hip-hop still value its original architects when they are no longer loud? Does cultural memory still exist when algorithms reward controversy more than context? 50 Cent's intervention was not really about defending a person, it was about defending a standard that says some careers are not content, they are infrastructure. Aries Spears did not really do anything outrageous by comedy standards, but hip-hop does not operate by comedy standards, it operates by lived experience. When those two systems collide, someone usually gets checked. Not canceled, not destroyed, checked. And here's the part nobody's really talking about. What happens if this keeps happening? What happens as more comedians, influencers, and commentators use hip-hop history as material without belonging to the culture that built it? Ice Cube will not always be here. Neither will the generation that remembers what the early industry actually looked like. Eventually, the referees disappear, and when that happens, the rules quietly change. 50 Cent knows that. That is why he keeps inserting himself into moments like this, not because he enjoys conflict, but because he understands how fast cultural memory fades in the content economy. And once it fades, it rarely comes back. So maybe this was never really about Aries Spears. Maybe he was simply the trigger. The real message was for the next wave of commentators, creators, and entertainers who treat hip-hop history like a meme archive instead of a survival story. Because if you can casually play with Ice Cube's name today, then tomorrow you can casually rewrite the culture itself. And that is the part 50 Cent was not willing to let slide. Not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly. You do not play with Ice Cube. And the most interesting question now is not whether Aries responds, it is whether this quiet line in the sand still means anything in an industry that keeps pretending history is optional.